I'm totally like repositioning all of my thoughts about Thanos in my mind. I'm just like, damn, like was Thanos right this whole time? Welcome everybody to the Zach Like Jack channel. I'm Zach Gray, and we are here with a movie review for Eternals. Okay, here's the thing. So I'm a huge Marvel fan, right? I'm also a huge DC fan, regardless of what people say. You know, your questions, comments, and concerns, I understand. I'm still a fan. But that doesn't mean that I'm not a fan of Marvel. I really love Marvel movies. I think that this is like a whole era of superhero movies that we're in, and I'm freaking here for it. And I was even here for the superhero movies back in the day, you know, the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. I've been here for all of it, okay? I am literally a product of being a nerd for superheroes, superhero stories, and villains. I am somebody, if there's anything that I can really say about the DC universe, is that their villains are so rich. So freaking rich. I mean, the Joker is literally my favorite villain of all time. He's like not, you know, like a powerful, you know, like a physically powerful figure, but he's a mentally powerful figure. And I really, really tend to pay very close attention to the villains in these types of stories. And we know over time, as we've seen these Marvel movies, that Marvel seems to not always have it in the bag when it comes to villains. Okay, now here's the thing with Eternals. Eternals is a representation of where we go from here in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, Marvel has been a essentially a very formulaic process along the way, right? Marvel basically created a formula within itself that now people tend to flock to and seek out when they go to a Marvel movie. And when you have something now that we're like almost 30 movies in the saga at this point, now when you kind of put a little bit of a dent in that formula and you start to create a new direction, it causes quite the division. Okay. Now, Eternals literally is probably, I mean, it's literally one of the most divisive Marvel movies ever. And what I've gathered from watching a lot of videos over the weekend, I saw Eternals on Saturday, and the reason why, as soon as I saw it, I didn't put a review out was because I really needed to sit with it. Because the truth of the matter is that Eternals is a story that I feel that really needs to be sat with. You know what I mean? If you've seen the movie, you probably understand where I'm coming from. You know, it's not Thor Ragnarok. It's not Captain America Civil War. It's not The Winter Soldier. It's not Doctor Strange. I feel that it is something very much on its own. And the funny thing is that after I walked out of this movie, I literally was just like, this is like the biggest, like it's get this the saga itself is getting huge. Okay. Literally, Eternals opens up the world to a very huge atmosphere, right? It literally expands the atmosphere that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I was just left feeling like this movie makes everything else feel so insignificant because it's so big. Again, if you've seen Eternals, you understand that the fact that it's just like the Avengers are like insignificant. Um Loki's bullshit insignificant. You know, fucking Iron Man, yeah, fighting Thanos, sacrificing his life to bring back the huge number of population that Thanos got rid of in one snap it's all insignificant because now you're entering into this world where everything is just so major. We are dealing with the universe, the galaxy. We're dealing with these beings called celestials that are essentially like world eaters. You know, they're birthed on these planets of life, essentially fueled by the creation and the thriving of life and civilization and technology and understanding, all the while just being created to destroy it all and move on to the next planet. I was just like, dude, this movie in 2.5 hours made everything so small. And for me to walk out and just feel like I can finally catch a breath, that's a successful movie to me. That is a successful way for a franchise that's literally almost 30 movies deep in this saga. That's how you tip the scale and you move forward in a different direction and just break a little away. I mean, it's not to say that like from here on out, Marvel doesn't have moments where they go back, like to their traditional formula. Because the thing for me is how I view the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward. I think that those formulaic tones in Marvel movies should probably stick to the likes of, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, Love and Thunder we have coming out. If they decide to do something else with Black Widow, we got the Hawkeye series coming out. However, they decide to move forward with, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like those are now where I see uh the formula lying, because I feel like, okay, so if Eternals is introducing all of these otherworldly characters, right, that literally can just destroy a planet at the drop of a hat, like, how do I better word this? Movies like Eternals moving forward, I think, are definitely going to cause a huge disturbance for what it is that they create, because now they have to be careful. It's almost like they really do have to be careful because of how huge the story of Eternals was. They have to really be careful how they're able to make sense of the smallness of it inside this huge storyline that literally could destroy the entire fucking world as we know it. So I just, again, I'm going to definitely be going into spoilers. This is not a non-spoiler review. The non-spoiler aspect of it is what I just talked about, okay? I'm very much interested in diving deep into everything that this movie presented me with, because I'm just so excited to talk about it. So I just wanted to go through the characters. Now we have the character of Cersei, which is a character that you're primarily following her throughout the story, right? And she's supposed to be this character that she basically can like manipulate things, as far as like, if you throw a rock at her, she can, turn it into dust or flowers or birds and stuff like that. She has like this ability to change inanimate objects to something else, like in the face of danger or whatever. And you're throughout the story following her basically discovered that there's more of an importance within her than she realized. And I think that from how they set it up, I mean, obviously, when they move forward with this, we're going to find out more about Cersei's, the origin of like her power and stuff later. But we had the character of Ajax played by Selma Hayek. Oh, I should also say that Cersei's character is played by Gemma Chan. Awesome. Her acting was amazing. That's the other thing too. Everybody's acting in this movie was freaking phenomenal. Okay, freaking phenomenal. But anyway, you had Ajax played by Selma Hayek, who's kind of like, the mother of the Eternals. Like, she's essentially, they're all following her. She's leading them to follow, these certain practices that are being fed to her by pretty much like their all-seeing God. Which, hold on, I'm going through. David K. That was his name, Arishem. So the voice of Arishem is David K. So Arishem is essentially, you guess you can think of him like the Marvel Universe's God, right? Arishem, the judge, who's basically there to just be the all-seeing eye and basically the all-seeing uh tormentor or judge to what it is that the planet's existence needs to be. So Arishem is obviously somebody who heavily influenced the way that Ajak essentially led the Eternals and the type of information that was fed to them, because I obviously she, in her growth throughout the years, because the Eternals were on Earth, for thousands of years, living amongst the people and kind of a part of the process of how humanity advanced. You had the incredible character of what's his name, Brian Tyree Henry, who played Festos. So Festos is he essentially, think of him as somebody who he created like the atom bomb. Like he basically was somebody who influenced the way that humanity advanced their technology. And Arishem, through Ajak, is somebody who was basically delivering out the teachings to influence humanity in a way to experience this level of growth, which, to my understanding, essentially fuels the birth and the resurgence of a new celestial that is basically buried deep inside of the fucking planet. Insane, literally insane. So Cersei essentially learns that through connecting with all of the powers and the Unimind technology that Festos created, she was able to unify with the mind of the Celestial and essentially shut it down. So that's another thing that I'm super interested about, because I wonder if we're ever going to see it explained, like what is it that was communicated to Cersei through the Celestial, because we obviously know that that all of the Eternals had to come together in this Unimind creation to be able to combat Tiamat, who was the Celestial that was being birthed in the Indian Ocean or whatever the fuck. I wonder if we're ever going to see what it is that was communicated to her, because there are moments where it's like she's seeing some shit and it's like it's obviously not explained. So I wonder how they're going to expand on that moving forward. So moving on from Cersei, obviously she's a huge fucking character in this story, right? She's definitely the one who stops the birthing of the Celestial at the end, with the unification of all the Eternals, and Tiamat, obviously. But we also have the character of Icarus, played by Richard Madden, who I had seen somebody refer to him online as like the Walmart Superman. Which, I can't fault somebody for feeling that way, because Icarus, essentially everything that he did was very much based in Superman. Like the way that he had his posture when he was landing on Earth, the way he flew. I mean, apart from him, like, with his arms stretched out and stuff, like he wasn't doing any of this. He was essentially, flying with his arms down and stuff. But it's just everything about him was very Superman. And I understand, it's like, I get it. There are definitely parallels, between DC and Marvel. They very much have characters that are very similar. Just like the character of Makari, who's essentially the Flash, whichever came first, at this, I'm not that deep, of a nerd. I don't know which one came first, but Makari and the Flash are essentially the same character. But the thing that, the Flash for me was done very well in the Snyder cut, obviously, but it took too long. There was so many years, for us to be able to get to them truly showing how it is that a speedster can operate, within time and space, how you can slow things down, where you can really show that, he's truly able to manipulate his environment, and how things are just, just very, very, very small to him. He can literally, and but Superman obviously was somebody who can, still kind of move as fast as the Flash, but not like, I mean, he almost got there. I mean, I'm pretty sure Superman, if he really fucking, was really pissed and really trying hard, he could probably, beat the Flash, at his speed, force speed or whatever. Um, but they did a really good job in this movie, in the Eternals, of showing a speedster. I don't want to call her, I mean, she's a speedster, but it's like she's not a speedster in the Marvel universe, but I'm just going to say speedster. But what Eternals did very well was showing the power, like the forcefulness of the power of a speedster, because what Zack Snyder did in the Snyder cut was essentially show how a speedster is able to operate, or how the world around him operates, whereas in Eternals, it's just like we're not showing everything else slowed down and stuff. We're showing how forceful this power of speed can be. When Makari, when there's the part at the end, where everybody's trying to fucking fight Icarus, because Icarus obviously turns on everybody, and Makari has her shining moment of essentially beating the shit out of Icarus, even though it really doesn't have much of an effect, but she definitely held her own. She's moving so fast and just punching him, running away, and then finally he grabs her by the neck and he's like, enough, and then blasts her with his freaking eye beams. I mean, the visuals were incredible. The visuals of this movie were so incredible. I loved the way that, when they're showing Arishem, for example, you understood by the visuals that Arishem is this, he is this he is this god. Like there was the moment at the end where it was just like, the clouds open up, and then you just look up and all you see is this huge giant fucking face looking at you from outer space. It's just like spanning all across the fucking world and shit. Like, it was insane. The visuals literally captured the expansiveness of the Celestials and of Arishem. I loved how they were able, and that was another thing too. I haven't put out a review for Dune. That's one that I definitely want to do soon as well. Dune is something that definitely requires a lot of thought. I've seen Dune twice at this point. I want to watch it one more time to really kind of put all of my thoughts together about it, and then I'll probably put a video out. But what Dune did also was very much succeed in showing just how small certain things are to what the bigness of the environment is. You know what I mean? So it's like when they're showing the sandworm, and then you have Paul Atreides, he's just standing there, he's just looking up at this giant fucking worm with these huge teeth and shit. It was just so awesome to look at. It was so awesome to look at, and everything in this movie was so awesome to look at. I love that the vast majority, and I truly wonder this, to be quite honest, how much of it was real environment versus studio CGI, because everything just looked great. A lot of it looked so realistic. It seems like they legitimately traveled around the world to film this, and it was just beautiful. It was literally beautiful. Like, I understand a lot of people may have said, it was probably a little too long, or it was boring, or yada yada. Like, I understand certain people that feel that way, but for me, like, I'm totally somebody that's very much here for like high concept science fiction, and that's literally what this felt like to me. Eternals and Dune very much feel like they are of like mind in how it was created, how it was delivered, and just how it should be looked at, because Dune, there's no doubt that Dune is something that's insanely high concept science fiction. There is no doubt. And Eternals for me, it felt like less of a superhero movie and more of a high concept science fiction story. And you know, I think that this movie had to walk for the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe moving forward to rot. Like, I don't, in my mind, I'm like, I totally said that right. Now I'm just like, nah, that didn't sound right. Let me say it again. This movie walked so the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward can run. And I think that there's going to be a lot of truth in that statement. Obviously, we have Spider-Man No Way Home coming out next month, which is insane to think about. But I'm really curious to see how that movie what is the bigness, what is the expansiveness going to look like in that movie? Because I'm telling you, Eternals is such a huge movie. It just makes everything seem so small and insignificant. It really, really, really does. So I really am curious to see how No Way Home is going to do that for Spider-Man, because we essentially know, well, we don't know, but we essentially can pretty heavily speculate uh what the ending, to a certain extent, of Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be. We already know that it was introduced at the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage that Spider-Man and Venom live in the same universe. Now, we had the Morbius trailer come out. Now, I hadn't done a Morbius trailer reaction. I was going to do a Morbius trailer reaction. And then I went to see Eternals, and then they showed the trailer for Morbius, and I was like, fuck, there goes my reaction. I'll probably still, put a reaction up, and then obviously, say like I already saw it because I went to see Eternals, but then just kind of talk about it. So I'll briefly talk about it here, and then more kind of expand on my thoughts when I do that video. But the Morbius trailer also was something that was super weird, because in watching it, I was just like, so this movie, like, what is it? You know what I mean? As far as, and when I ask that question, I'm essentially like, okay, so they're showing like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man image, like in the alleyway, and then when he's looking at the Daily Bugle magazine, or magazine newspaper, it's like the logo from The Amazing Spider-Man. So it's just like, what universe is this? Like, how big is Morbius going to be? I mean, Morbius looks like it's going to be a pretty decently expansive movie. I mean, we're obviously introducing a vampire to the why, I mean, do we even consider it the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Because it is Sony. So it's like, well, it's not necessarily a part of the big picture, but it's like playing in the playground. It's like they could bring Morbius over if they wanted to, if they wanted him to interact with Blade and shit. Oh, speaking of that, more on that coming later. That ending was juicy. Anyway, so let me just finish going through the characters. I know I'm kind of like all over the place. This video is already going to be super long. I already knew that when I jumped into it. So we have the character, Kumail Nanjiani played Kingo. So Kumail Nanjiani, he's probably been the one character that I have been the most fascinated in seeing on screen, because I know that when they were gearing up to this movie, they were in production in 2018. Kumail Nanjiani like started training, getting crazy. He like was working out with The Rock, and just got freaking jacked, and literally took this role so seriously. So I was super curious. Like, he was the one that I was the most curious about. Like, because again, Eternals, like I know nothing about the Eternals. Okay. And actually, I should point out, before I saw Eternals this past weekend, I had never seen a trailer for Eternals. I had always felt that from the beginning, in watching other, like some of my other favorite creators on YouTube, kind of, they're like movie analysts and stuff like that, and comic book nerds and shit, watching them talk about, I should give example, like Robert Meyer Burnett, and John Campia, and Christian Harloff and Mark Ellis, like, you know, they're not like so deep into it, but they have like them and all their friends, like they have a lot of people around them that really know about these characters. So me living vicariously through all of them, listening to all them talk about like how huge the world of the Eternals is, and you know where it can go, and about the Celestials and all that shit, I was just like, huh, this seems like it can be something huge. So I intentionally never watched any of the trailers that came out for Eternals. I had only seen like maybe like a second, like if I was walking by my TV, like my mom was watching, you know, something like Good Morning America or some bullshit, you know, and they were talking Eternals is coming on, and then they would show like a second of Angelina Jolie's face, and I'd be like, I can't, don't show me nothing. That's pretty much the extent of what I had seen. So I completely went into this movie 100%, well, 99% fresh, as to not knowing anything other than what I heard other movie commentators talk about. So in being somebody that knows nothing about the Eternals, I did not find the story hard to follow at all. I understood exactly what it was. I think that Chloe Zhao did a great job at directing this movie and making sure that the audience understood what the Eternals was, because it's definitely, I mean, I again, I can't speak to somebody who's like a huge Eternals fan. Um, so I don't know like what's different, what was the same, you know, like I can't speak to any of that. Like I can't speak to how true the characters were to their comic book counterparts. You know, I've seen some things online talking about Angelina Jolie's character of Thena and how they didn't really do like a great job of expanding on her. And I kind of like stopped my deeper insight into that, because I was like, you know, I'm gonna do my own research, because actually I'm gonna look through and read the Eternals comics, because I mean I'm more interested in the Eternals now, and the thing is, it's like, to me that's a successful movie. Like, you took somebody who knew nothing about the Eternals and made me now want to dive deep into the fucking mythology of Eternals. So I'm like, that's a success to me, you know. But I can understand if I'm looking at all the characters and I'm thinking about who I wanted more uh expansion on, I would have liked to have more of a character build up for Sprite. Sprite was a character, you know, essentially, she's an adult, you know, trapped in a young girl's body. She's like eternally fucking a child. And then at the end of the movie, uh Cersei essentially, you know, turns her into human, you know, takes away her powers and stuff, and now she's able to, you know, live a real life. As a child, she has to go to school now, even though she's probably going to be like the most intelligent fucking student in school. You know, now she'll be able to, you know, grow old and essentially live a real life amongst humans. That's another thing too. Like, I wonder how that story is going to pursue moving forward. Like, is she even going to be a part of the Eternals moving forward? Like, is Icarus really dead? Questions. I would have liked to have her story more expanded upon, because the way that they end it, it's like there's this crazy turn that happens. With I didn't see it coming personally. I know some people might have, but I didn't. Where it's revealed that, because there, I know I'm jumping around, I'm so sorry. This is like a chaotic review. But hey, if you've been watching my videos and you understand that this madness in the moment, this is what happens here. Okay. There's a crazy turn towards the end of the movie where Icarus, it's essentially revealed that he kills Salma Hayek. Like, he kills Ajak, you know, because Ajak is basically has entrusted in him the true purpose of Arishem, and then basically entrusts within him that she doesn't believe, like, after living amongst humanity and the humans and truly knowing the true feeling and love and everything that goes with being a human on this planet, like a true human, like not like a trash human that like goes out and like kills people and shit, because it's like, I mean, you're always going to have bad with the good, right? But she truly saw the good in humanity and began to sympathize with the human race and began to see that Arisham's plan in creating life only to destroy it, to create more powerful life. She then began to see that that was something that was very flawed. And I again, there probably could have been more buildup with that, but I felt more successful in her storytelling than I did with Sprite, because in uh Ajax sharing that information with Icarus, he then turns on her and sacrifices her to the deviants that, you know, are ever changing and whatnot. And in the name of Arishem, that essentially he believes in Arishem's vision. He doesn't view humanity as being loving. He views humanity as being insignificant because he is a fucking god and can, with the blink of an eye, destroy, you know, an entire fucking race. So he very much, you know, is somebody who I guess you can interpret that he idolized Arishem and his vision and looked at him like a god, which Arishem is essentially a god of the fucking Marvel Cinematic Universe. So there's that turn where Icarus, you know, becomes the villain. He kills Ajax and then tries to frame it on the deviants. Well, he sacrifices her to the deviants. It's not like he's the one who killed her. You know, the deviants are the ones that killed Ajax, but you know, he brings her body back to her farm or whatever, and essentially like the deviants did this. He knew nothing. When in all reality, he's the one that showed her that the deviants were alive, because that's the other thing I didn't bring up in the beginning, is that the Eternals are essentially, you know, brought onto the planet. You know, they destroy the deviants, you know, rid the deviants of their reign over the human race, and you know, basically protect the humans from the deviants, essentially. Because again, in my interpretation, which I have to look more into the Eternal lore, the reason why they're saving the humans is because the humans have to progress in order to bring on the, you know, the creation of the celestial that's living, you know, within the planet. So in that turn with Icarus, you then randomly have this fucking moment that Sprite's like, I'm going with you, you know, when he separates from the Eternals, and he's just like, you know, if you guys get in my way, if you guys try to stop this from happening, if you try to stop the birth of Tiamat, like, I'm gonna kill each and every one of you. And just when he's going to leave, you know, Sprite in turn, you know, was just like, I will go with you, because then it's kind of hinted at and then mentioned that, you know, she's been in love with him, you know, for, you know, thousands of fucking years and yada, yada, yada. And she can't, you know, have true love because she's always going to be a child. And, you know, she can't, like, it's just, you know, it's weird. Um, it's also interesting to me that, you know, them being gods, that they also have the morality complex where it's just like, yeah, a child cannot be with an adult because ill, disgusting, you know. So that was interesting. I wonder how it is in the comics. I wonder if in the comics, since they were written like so long ago, if like they didn't give a shit. But I just didn't feel as satisfied with Sprite's decision, because it just wasn't something that was established enough for me. I guess it's like, yeah, it was mentioned that like she loves him so much, but you know, you love him so much, and then, you know, there's that moment at the end where her and Cersei, you know, she stabs Cersei, and she's just like, you know, basically saying like, I'm jealous of you, like you basically, you know, you were with the man of my dreams and I can never have that. And you know, it's like, I get that she feels that way, but to me, that like that doesn't explain uh enough for me on why you would like that doesn't explain why the planet needs to die. Why does the planet need to die to create this celestial? And then what, you're going to spend the rest of like eternity with Icarus? Like, first of all, y'all aren't even going to remember shit because, you know, Arishem, as soon as this happens, is going to wipe your fucking memories away and shit and hold them in the memory bank. You know what I mean? It's like, so like, what was the reason? You know, in the words of Cardi B, what was that reason? Like, what was the reason? Fucking Sprite. And then she's like randomly good again, you know, after they have like the whole Unimind thing, and then, you know, they stop the fucking Tiamat, and then, you know, fucking Icarus, like within his guilt for, you know, betraying, you know, his brothers and sisters and the woman that he loved, you know, he fucking flies into the sun and commits suicide. It's just like, I think his arc, like they probably could have done a little bit more to make that turn a little more successful. I mean, it wasn't like a failure or anything. Like I didn't see the turn coming, but I just like it just wasn't as satisfying for me. And that just kind of goes like back to the beginning when I was talking about how like my love, you know, in these comic book movies, it doesn't just lie with the superheroes. Like I really love the mythology of the villains that are behind these superheroes. You know, again, like the Joker is probably my fucking ultimate because he's like the ultimate foe. He represents everything that both Batman is and what he is against and what he could become should he let the rage take over. Like the Joker represents everything, you know, that Batman is, was, could be. You know what I mean? And he's just an incredible psychological foe, you know, because the Joker is like everybody, you know, well, I'm not everybody like in, you know, like my fucking universe and shit, but everybody like within, you know, the DC universe, you know, they all look at the Joker as just being this crazy fucking insane you know, fucking rage demon dude who's just all about chaos and he's crazy and he belongs in a mental institution and yada 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 whatever, when the truth of it is it's like, dude, this dude is smarter than all of you. You know what I mean? Like he just views everything on a different spectrum. He analyzes the environment in a way that people can't fathom as being true, because a lot of people, you know, really value or really take pride in the fact that, you know, people are good, you know, but it's just like a person can really change. They can really switch fucking from good to bad real quick when, you know, presented with a life fucking threatening situation, you know what I mean? And the Joker is really representative of what human nature can become when thrust into an extreme moment of pain, of guilt, of chaos. And I feel like in Eternals, when it comes to, because this is where it gets like, who's the real villain? You know what I mean? It's just like there wasn't much like at first it's like the deviants are the villain, right? And then there's like this fucking like hyper insanely intelligent fucking deviant that like it absorbs all the powers of the different Eternals that it kills and shit. um and that in turn like transitions him, like he kills oh man, what's the dude's character's name? Hold on. Gilgamesh. When he kills Gilgamesh, like he essentially takes his power, right? And he kind of morphs and he's able to turn like almost human like he still looks like, you know, a fucking deviant creature, but he's able to talk, he's able to voice his comprehension, because like when he's still the creature, like you can tell he's like comprehending things. But, you know, it's like after he kills Gilgamesh, then it's just like, okay, like he can talk now. You can understand his thought process. He can, you know, voice his opinion or whatever the fuck. He can talk trash to you now when he's trying to kick your ass and shit. You know, he's just like a hyper intelligent being. So then it's like, yeah, that's the villain, you know, and then it's like, then it's revealed, oh, Arishem is trying to, he's literally just, he has us here to build up this planet and destroy it so he can birth us fucking celestial. Then it's like Arishem's the villain. And then fucking Icarus has that turn where he fucking has Ajax killed and then he's the bad guy. And then it's like Arishem's the bad guy. And then fucking Sprite comes up and she's just like, I love you. I'm going to follow you. Fuck everybody else, even though like we've spent thousands of fucking generations together. So fucking Sprite is, you know, the bad girl now. And it's just like, where's the focus? You know what I mean? And again, it's just like, that's the usual complaint when you watch a Marvel movie, right? Is that the villains aren't fleshed out. The most fleshed out fucking villain in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe to me, and could be to you also, is Thanos. But here's the thing. Now, with Eternals, to me, it is totally flipped Thanos upside down. Totally flipped Thanos upside down. Because again, if you've seen Eternals, then you know that there was a specific line, and I forgot who said it. I don't know if I think maybe it was Cersei or maybe it was Ajax. I don't remember exactly who said it. But there's a specific mention that when Thanos destroyed half of humanity with the snap, that he essentially delayed the birth of the Celestial. And then it's like kind of hinted at where it's like, okay, so if Thanos already had knowledge of who Arishem was, who the Celestials were, and the fact that there was a fucking Celestial living within planet Earth, was his tactic in snapping half of the fucking existence out of, well, I shouldn't use the word existence because I was like out of existence, half of, you know, the human fucking population out of existence. Was he doing it intentionally to cause a rift in Arishem's plan? Because if you remember back, you know, to Infinity War, you know, Thanos was operating from a place of, you know, with knocking all of this down, it can lead to the people to better bring themselves back up. I guess that's like a more layman way of explaining it. So maybe he kind of similarly looked at humans, or, you know, the planet or whatever, kind of similar. He looked at it kind of similar to the way Arishem looked at it, but the difference is that Arishem has no connection. Arishem literally has no connection to the human race. Like, he just doesn't give a shit. Like, he just cares about fucking birthing celestials and ruling the galaxy, right? That's all fucking Arishem seems to give a shit about. So, was Thanos really operating from a point of, well, I see where you're coming from, Arishem, but if we just put a little bit of a dent into the madness and the chaos of it all and wipe out half of the population, hopefully that'll wipe out the bad part of the population, leaving the good part of the population so the good can prevail and rise and breathe a new fresh air of existence. you know, I mean, I could totally be analyzing it wrong, but the thing is that that's the fucking power of this movie, is that now it makes me sit here and fucking question everything else. And it's like everything else is insignificant. Everything. But out of everything that is now insignificant, again, of like a fucking Iron Man fighting you know, a bad guy here and there, you know, or like this from stealing his technology or whatever the fuck. All of that is insignificant. But out of all of it is the one moment that is most significant, Thanos' snap, and insignificant in a way that we don't already view it as being significant, because it's significant because he was a powerful foe for the Avengers. Essentially snapped half of humanity out of existence, right? So he's significant in that sense. But now, after seeing Eternals and realizing that everything is just continuing to get bigger, is what he did to now be looked at as a positive. Like, as fucked up as it was, like, do we now just look at him as like, well, I guess it wasn't that bad? So then in turn, does that totally diminish Tony Stark sacrificing his life to bring everybody back, to then put Arishem's plan back on fucking track to succeed in birthing the Celestial? So this moment of Arishem, like literally birthing the Celestial. So out of all the movies, basically all of these huge tragedies, like they've all been like Tony Stark's fault, right? Like Tony Stark fucking created Ultron. Tony Stark basically fucking created the angry fucker that, you know, he made him mad or whatever. He shamed him. Who was he created what the fuck? Mysterio. There we go. Because he was fucking rude to Mysterio and shit, and that other fucking dude, you know, A Christmas Story with the glasses, you know, because Tony Stark was such a dick to so many people. Now he's to blame for now the fucking planet dying at the hand of Arishem and the Celestials. Even in death, Tony Stark is still fucking shit up. Oh man. Anyway, so at the end of it, let me finish going through the characters, because then I want to go into the Easter eggs video. So Dane Whitman. Okay, so Kit Harington plays Dane Whitman, right? Who's, I guess, going to be like, is it the Green Knight? I believe I saw. Let me hold on. Now I have to look it up, because I'm pretty sure after I looked everything up at the end, Kit Harington character. I'm pretty sure it was the Green Knight. Black Knight. Oh, okay. The Green Knight is that one movie. Sorry. So Kit Harington, obviously, you know, they're hinting that he's, you know, he's more significant than just like this random human dude. Because at the end of the movie, he ends up pulling out like that mysterious fucking sword that seems to like have life within it. You know, it has like this like venom type look, this little blackness that was like going, like when he goes to touch it, it was like reaching out to him and shit. The Black Knight now is a whole other character that I have no idea who this is, and now I have to do fucking research to find out like what is happening, where are we going from here, you know? Because in again that end credit scene, well, one of the end credit scenes, it was okay. So the first one, it was well, you know, hold on before I go there, because see chaos. I literally can't focus on one thought because there's just so much to fucking talk about. So in that, this is the second uncredited scene. So as he's looking at the mysterious sword and shit, then he has a voice that's behind him that's talking, right? I forgot exactly what the fucking voice said, but maybe I can find. Oh, it's not here. But whatever the fucking voice tells him at the end, right? Oh no, that's a quote. I thought I had found it, but I didn't. But anyway, the voice that was talking to Kit Harington, as he was looking at the blade, turns out it's kind of been confirmed that it's Blade. That it's fucking Blade. The thing that we've been waiting, the character that we've been fucking waiting to see redone at this point, had a vocal cameo in Eternals, and it was fucking Blade. It was apparently Mahershala Ali's voice. They didn't show anything. I had no fucking idea. So, as soon as I'm walking out of the theater, I'm on my phone looking up, like, who's the voice at the end of Eternals? And it's like, oh, that's Mahershala Ali, Blade. Apparently Chloe Zhao confirmed it. And I'm like, what? What? Like, it's cool and all. Is it exciting? Yes. But fuck, show him. Shit. They could have. Well, I mean, I understand why it was just a voice and they didn't show him, because it's like, it's still, everything's still being developed. They probably don't have like the look, brought down yet, all the concept art and all that shit. They haven't probably locked in the costume, and, Eternals, I guess, wouldn't be the place to introduce that, because it's like the Blade movie's like so far out at this point. But whatever. It was exciting once I knew who it was, regardless of the fact. But the end credit scene before that, where you had, okay, let me go back to, okay, so we have at the end, right? Once all is said and done, and they stop the birth of Tiamat, Cersei, was it Kingo? No, Makari. Fuck, now I'm forgetting. I'm like, who were the final? Okay, so in the ship, it was Thena. Druig was there, right? See, now I'm lost. Okay. I remember fucking, Angelina Jolie being there, and then obviously the cameo. But anyway, whatever. So let's just frame it this way. Half of the Eternals living get summoned up by Arshem. And he's basically like, through your memories, I will decide if, whether or not, the humans get to live or die. I will come back for judgment, or however he frames it. I know that's obviously not fully what he said, but he takes them. And then all that's left are the two, or I think it's like three. Sorry, there's something on my camera. Gross. My bad. It was really bothering me, because as I'm looking up at, at you, essentially, I'm just like, ew, what is this? This little smudge. Little smudge. Ugh. Okay, there it is. It's gone. Satisfaction. So I think it was what? Makari, Thena, Druig. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to stop thinking about it, because now I'm just like, now it's a blur. I have to see it again. Again, mind you, I've only seen it once, so I'm just trying to like remember everything all in one moment. Oh, you know what? It'll probably be more explained in the video that I'm gonna watch with y'all before I end it here. Regardless of the fact, we have this crazed cameo, right? So we've got a couple of the Eternals that didn't get taken away by Arishem on the ship. And there's this weird beam, right? And it reminded me of like the fucking traveling beam and shit from Thor. I was just like, is Thor fucking coming? Like, who is this? And then you see like the little fucking creature. Hold on, what was his name? Like Pip or some shit. That's the other thing too. Like I'm like so like not with all these fucking characters. Damn, I love how they already revealed this dude. For real? Is it really on the IMDb page? Like, what is happening? Pip the Troll. Okay. So we have Pip the Troll, right? Pop up through this freaking beam. And following him is and I kind of chuckled when this happened because it was like so unexpected. Because it's like, I don't know, maybe it was ruined for people online. But again, I had no idea. I literally did not consume much of anything about the Eternals. Didn't watch any fucking trailer before I went to see this movie. Didn't read articles about it online. I avoided spoilers like the plague because I knew it was going to be something that was very different. So I wanted to go in as fresh as possible. And when you had this fucking dude pop up on screen, again, I chuckled a little bit because it was so fucking unexpected. It's fucking Harry Styles. Harry Styles walks up, and apparently he's fucking Eros, who's Thanos' brother. And he's coming to help, well, basically inform the surviving Eternals that, yeah, so Arishem came for your brothers and sisters, and I know where they are, and I can help you get them back. And then bam, credits, you know. Well, it was bam credits, and then, you know, the other scene. But it was just like so out of left field. I was just like, what is happening? If there was anything that showed me that I knew nothing about like the comic book versions of these things, it was literally those two end credit scenes where I was just like, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm excited to move forward with all this. You know what I mean? Anyway, all right, so did I hit all the characters? Gilgamesh, I actually liked the connection that Gilgamesh had with Thena. I liked how protective he was over Thena, and basically was the reason for her to remember, you know, who she really was, because there was this whole arc where she kept like turning evil and like turning on the fucking Eternals, and you have like Angelina Jolie with her fucking, you know, her weapons and shit, you know, fighting the fucking Eternals and shit. But what was really happening was that she was literally just remembering the truth of what it was that had happened, you know, on planets before Earth and stuff like that. So I really liked their dynamic. Druig, was, how do you say his name? Is it Barry Keoghan? This dude, first of all, I remember him. What was? Oh, he was in the Green Knight. That's hilarious. Chernobyl. I remember him from Chernobyl, and I remember him from Dunkirk, because Dunkirk is obviously one of my favorite fucking movies. Christopher Nolan. Yes. But I loved the way that his character was. I mean, if you really think about it, Druig was essentially a character that at the drop of a hat could have ended all of the hatred within humanity. Like, he literally could have controlled the world. Quick. But, you know, obviously never did. And he decided to, when the Eternal split, he decided to live in an existence, you know, where it was like a very controlled environment. He was like in the Amazon and shit, and he had like a small group of people that, you know, that he essentially controlled the minds of and stuff like that. So, but I really liked his power. I liked that he's obviously more powerful than he was able to show. So I thought that was awesome. I've already talked about how Makari was cool as fuck. Phaistos, I really liked his character. I loved the intelligence of his character. I liked when they went into the backstory of him and essentially showing that the reason why he lives the way he does in the present timeline is because of the guilt that he had for being responsible for the advancement in human development in creating weapons technology and like fucking Hiroshima and all that shit. Like he was essentially behind like, you know, the fucking atomic bomb and or the atom bomb, all that fucking shit. So I enjoyed the fact that, you know, it was definitely something that he lived with and regretted, felt guilt for, and it just like it just added a lot to his character. It just made his character more interesting to me. Already talked about Sprite. I wish you know, that her character was a little more drawn out, and I'm really curious to see if she's even going to be included in the Eternal storyline moving forward now that she's human. Kingo, Kumail Nanjiani, basically playing, you know, a Bollywood actor who's essentially like just super into himself and feels like he's changing the world with his movies. The way he played the character was it was hilarious. I definitely enjoyed him. Okay, so I guess that was all the characters. All right, so this has obviously been going on like super long. I also really wanted to get into. Let me swap. I really wanted to watch this breakdown video. We have here from New Rock Stars. It's the Eternals breakdown, Easter eggs and details you missed. Now, this is a 32-minute video, so I already know this video is long AF. But I wanted to, in my discussion of it, I really wanted to make sure that I watched something that was obviously way more intelligent and in-depth than anything I could say. So let's just go ahead and go right in and listen to what Eric Voss has to talk about.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Marvel's Eternals. A literally groundbreaking game changer with scale so epic that even the main characters are like, woof, do we need all of us for this? I loved how this movie redefined the mythology and the rules of the MCU, so I am gonna break this down scene by scene for all of the Easter eggs, visual details, cinematic influences, and deeper layers of meaning that you might have missed. By the way, you can support New Rockstars by checking out our Eternals-inspired latest Obsession shirt, Immortal Unity, with a really cool art deco design at newrockstarsmerch.com, available only for a limited time though. There's also a fearsome celestial shirt available. Check out all of our great options at New Rockstars.
Ooh, hold on. I really like that celestial shirt.
There's also a fearsome celestial shirt.
Ooh, I'm gonna get that. Ooh, y'all just sold a shirt to me. Man, that fucking shirt looks badass. Oh, I'm buying that
Available.
shirt.
Check out all of our great options at newrockstarsmerch.com. The film opens with the words, "In the beginning." Just that text, simply on black, which, of course, the first 3 words of the Bible, establishing this film as its own book of Genesis origin story for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's mention of the universe.
Definitely see the parallels, essentially. Again, Arishem is God.
His first son, and Arishem, a celestial, the god of this universe. And when ecological disaster wipes out our civilization so that all that's left is a Disney Plus subscription watched by a Wall-E robot, what advanced alien races think our god is too? This Star Wars-esque scroll says the Celestials came before the 6 singularities and the dawn of creation, referring to the Infinity Stones that Wong explained were created by the Big Bang, meaning the Celestials predated the Big Bang and might have created the Infinity Stones and were likely unaffected by Thanos' snap. The number 6, apparently sacred to the MCU, might have even be rooted in the Celestials having their 6 eyes. Celestials were Marvel Comics creations of Jack Kirby.
Wait a minute. Oh, okay.
They're giant armored space gods who created mankind on Earth alongside Eternals and Deviants. In Guardians of the Galaxy, we briefly saw the Celestial Isan the Searcher, and nowhere is the severed head of a Celestial, and Peter Quill's father, Ego, claimed to be a Celestial as well. Here we meet the 10 Eternals as they float past the sun in their ship called the Domo. In the Eternals comics, Domo was actually the name of an Eternal who administered the affairs on Olympia, answering directly to Zuras, Thena's father. Used to be a secretary, now he's a ship that gets wrecked. Nomo Domo. But we already know something is different about
Nomo Domo. More. Hashtag Nomo Domo. That's hilarious.
Eternals' origin story in this film because they arrived to Earth already manufactured. We later hear that they think they come from a separate planet called Olympia, when in the comics, the Celestials create the Eternals on Earth from genetic experiments alongside humans and deviants. And Olympia is a place on Earth as well. Ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth? So seeing them just delivered here and then booted up, all just little clues that these are actually synthetic beings with no real genetic history alongside humanity, and we're just fed this false narrative. Throughout all this, composer Ramin Djawadi scores the imagery with haunting organ music, evoking Hans Zimmer's organ score for Interstellar, both of which cast all this cosmic imagery with the tones of a church, inviting us to behold these sacred events with reverence and awe. The Domo looms into view.
I really, really, really enjoyed all of the musical cues in this movie. 100%. The musical cues were legitimately on point for me.
Upon ancient Mesopotamia, 5000 BC, director Chloe Zhao's imagery showing the Domo in profile as a rectangular shape evokes the mysterious arrival of the monolith in Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, which symbolically served the same function as the Domo does here. Advanced tech coming from above, allowing early humans to finally evolve. An amphibious deviant washes up, much like the seminal first fish that jumped from water to land in our evolutionary history. But unlike the deviants in the comics, these have a silvery, wispy anatomy, like the barbs of a catfish. It's gonna sting ya. And it's all strung together into these mythological forms like griffins and dragons. And notice how they come with a second set of eyes, 4 in total, which links them visually to the Celestials, whose helmets have 6 eye circles. The deviants just being 1 rung below from that. And then Eternals and humans 1 rung below that with just the 2 eyes. Just another cool detail hinting that the deviants were also crafted in the Celestials' image, and might have, in a way, at one point been preferred. This fisherman calmly tells his son to run, sacrificing himself to save his boy. It's just interesting how, despite the Eternals' divine gifts after gifts, really the best, most noble qualities about humanity are already evident in these humans. The Eternals help them repel the deviants, each using their powers in different ways. Like we see Icarus's flight and laser vision, Makari's super speed, Kingo's finger gun energy blast, Cersei's matter transfiguration, Thena's casting of weapons, Gilgamesh's power punches, Phastos' tech assembly, Sprite's illusion casting, Druig's mind control, and then Ajax, last but not least, heals Icarus's wounds. And notice how whenever they use their powers, they all kind of take the same form. A glow of golden cosmic magic emanating from the contours of their armor, and actually you can even see Makari's trailing behind her as she zips that boy to safety, almost like a puppet string. Just a way of showing how all of this is just rooted from the Celestials, like a string of Christmas lights, all strung from the same wall outlet. They say goodbye by giving this boy this dagger. This is actually a real-life ceremonial golden dagger recovered from the Sumerian port city of Ur in a royal tomb. So making this village that very civilization. The Sumerians were the earliest known civilization of ancient Mesopotamia, living among the Tigris and Euphrates river valleys, which was one of 4 major waterways on Earth that early civilizations arose upon, along with the Nile, the Indus, and the Yellow River. This film suggests that the spark that enabled all of human civilization to ignite was the Eternals' arrival, and Zhao frames that spark with this handoff evoking Michelangelo's creation of Adam, God on the right, man on the left. The Marvel Studios title card actually opens with a quick flash of Kirby's comic depictions of the six-eyed celestial. We also see Shang-Chi added to the M of Marvel Studios. And then we hear the music of Pink Floyd's Time, the opening track to their epic album Dark Side of the Moon. Really the best song to just space out to. The lyrics lament losing track of...
What you mean about space out? Are you influenced by any sort of natural thing?
I'm kicking around on a piece of the ground, waiting for someone or something to show you the way. Just like how the Eternals have been stuck on Earth, burning time, centuries, millennia, waiting for further instructions from the Celestials. Cersei's now in London, working at the Natural History Museum, where that Sumerian dagger is now a relic on display. On her way into work, she greets Charles Darwin, whose theory on evolution might have been eternal inspired.
She's like, I'm sorry, Charlie, because like she was late or some shit.
She also gives an apprehensive look at a dinosaur fossil, almost as if these previous apex predators on Earth might have become prey to their mortal enemies, the deviants. In a classroom, Dane Whitman quotes the poet Walt Whitman. In this broad Earth of ours, amid the measureless grossness and slag, enclosed and safe within its central heart, nestles the seed of perfection, going on to say that the poet's optimism in humanity.
I just have to say, Kit Harington is one phenomenally gorgeous human being. Damn it.
Echoes our recent universal victory, the return of half our population. Of course, he's referencing the events of the blip in Avengers Endgame, but also this quote foreshadows how in our Earth, within its heart, nestles the seed of a celestial. Cersei, of course, lectures about apex predators, foreshadowing the return of the apex predators, the deviants. Then at Dane's birthday party, Cersei gives Dane a ring that he notices from the Middle Ages, and it bears a raven emblem. Dane Whitman becomes, in the comics, the Black Knight, a successor to a long line of warriors who all bear the ebony blade, the first bearer being Dane's ancestor, Sir Percy of Scandia, who lived during the reign of King Arthur. Cersei says this
I wonder what his costume is going to look like. I mean, you know, it's obviously going to look cool as fuck, but I can't wait to see that.
and is his family crest. In the comics, Black Knight's chestplate bears a raven emblem. Dane asks Cersei,
"Are you a wizard, like Doctor Strange?"
I'm super normal.
Cersei's powers come from the Celestials, but the eldritch magic of Doctor Strange and the sorcerers may very well come from the same source. Later, actually, Cersei transfigures a boulder into birds, visually similar to how Doctor Strange turned one of Thanos' attacks into butterflies in Infinity War. The Deviant attacks them in Camden Lock, and Sprite tries to distract it by casting duplicates of herself and Cersei. Though notice how when the Deviant knocks her down, it breaks the illusion and the duplicates fade away. Now, Sprite's duplicates aren't tangible like the duplicates that Loki can cast with his sorcery. So Icarus arrives to help, and Cersei turns a crashing double-decker bus into rose petals. Cersei finally admits to Dane the truth about the Eternals' history, claiming her understanding that she came from a planet called Olympia, and Dane asks,
"Why didn't you guys help fight Thanos? Or any war, or all the other terrible things throughout history?"
We were instructed not to interfere in any human conflicts unless deviants are involved.
She goes on to say that had they protected humanity from everything, mankind would never develop the way that they were meant to. And to be clear,
And you know what, honestly, like I understood that. I had seen some people online like have issue with that. It's just like, it's bullshit. But it's like, well, you have to understand, it's like if you have the Eternals that are literally eat, sleeping, and breathing by the word of their god, who's basically instructing them that this is how you have to live amongst the humans. You can't step in and fucking save them from everything, because then it's like, they're not going, like, in protecting them from everything, they will not in turn be able to advance themselves. So I mean, what did people really expect? It was just like there had to be some kind of explanation as to why the Eternals are now a thing. It's like, well, no, they were really here the whole time. They were watching everything that was happening. But they just really couldn't do anything. But you know what actually would have been interesting to see? And this is just like, me, conspiring in my own imagination, what was their lives like during the blip? You know what I mean? It was just like Druig with like his fucking, small Amazonian village of people. Like, did he just watch, a lot of his people just fucking disappear between, and did they know what was going on? You know what I mean? It was just like, how did they react? Wouldn't that invoke them to want to seek each other out, to ask questions? I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean, it makes me a little curious, as to how they reacted to the blip when it happened. But, you know, I'm okay with how they explained it. It's totally fine. Makes sense.
Thanos is an Eternal born with a deviant gene. He is the son of Alars, who was brother to Zuras, Thena's father, and Thanos was also the brother to Eros, aka Star Fox, as confirmed in the post-credit scene. But it sounds like these Eternals were kept in the dark, mostly on Earth, so they would probably have no reason to know Thanos' Eternal or his deviant lineage. Dane hears the name Icarus and cites the Greek myth of Icarus who flew too close to the sun, and Cersei confirms that Sprite made up that myth when they were in Athens. So all of the Eternals really have analogs in real-world history, like Icarus inspired the tragedy of Icarus, Athena inspired Athena, Greek goddess of war and leader of Athens, Phastos inspired Hephaestus, Greek god of the forge, Cersei inspired Cersei from Greek mythology in the Odyssey, who transforms humans into animals, Ajax inspired Ajax, the hero second only to Achilles, Gilgamesh inspired the great Epic of Gilgamesh from Sumerian mythology, considered the oldest narrative of human history, Sprite inspired figures like sprites from European mythology, but also, as stated in this film, Tinkerbell, which is a nod to the comics, in which Sprite actually visits playwright J.M. Barrie and inspired him for his character of Peter Pan. Kingo may have been linked with Kingu from Babylonian mythology, and Druig doesn't really seem to have a mythological link, but his name does sound like the Russian word drug for friend, maybe the way he sees himself as a friend to humanity. But back in Cersei and Sprite's flat, MCU news outlet WHIH shows back up on the TV, reporting on the global earthquakes, and Sprite unsheaths this blade, the same blade she later uses to stab Cersei in the back during the final battle. We flash back to the city of Babylon in 575 BC. The film actually reconstructed the famous Ishtar Gate, currently on display at the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, and after they slay this deviant, Ajax is summoned by the celestial Ereshim the Judge. I love how visually Chloe Zhao achieves this awesome scale with Ereshim's whole design, asteroids and other space dust orbiting his massive form. Also notice how his armor in many places appears scratched, crumbled, weathered, giving him a semblance of age and life experience, at least compared to Jemiah's cleaner armor in the later shot. Like, these might be battle scars from a kind of conflict that left nowhere beheaded. This first shot of Ereshim actually only shows part of his enormous head, like it's impossible for us to take him in all at once, but they personify him only through his voice and these 6 glowing eye holes. So later in the film, as Tiamat emerges and Ereshim returns in judgment, just those 6 eyes alone.
This is the fucking shot. This was the shot that it was just like, it was so haunting to me. And I just like, it's where I legitimately fulfilled my appreciation for how Chloe Zhao directed this movie. It was just like, just look at that. Just imagine you're just standing there and you're fucking looking up at the sky and you have like this insane fucking being just looking down on you in judgment. It's just like, it was so haunting, but it was done so well. This is my favorite fucking shot from the entire movie, and the entire movie is beautiful, but this shot just represents so much. It's not just the shot itself, but it's literally just the idea of like this thing. He's literally looking down upon the world from fucking outer space, and you are, again, are so small in comparison. Crazy.
Us how massive these things are in full. Now the Domo is parked inside of the city of Babylon, inside the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which is one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. 2 other ancient wonders, the Lighthouse of Alexandria and the Pyramids of Giza, appeared in the MCU in Loki. At the feast, Sprite regales them in what sounds like the actual Epic of Gilgamesh, as Makari barters for the Emerald Tablet, which is a real-world relic containing cryptic hermetic text, which has been obsessed over by Islamic and European alchemists who associated it with the Philosopher's Stone as a means of producing gold, but it contains the famous derived passage of as above, so below, which is interesting to think about the context of the Celestials, right? As they are above, so they are below our feet, sleeping. And that Celestial, Tiamat, begins gold, but is turned back into an elemental form of marble stone. Ironic, considering Dane calls Cersei King Midas later on. Icarus and Cersei declare their love for each other, they get it on, and they get married in the Gupta Empire of India in 480. There's actually a quick shot of the Great Wall of India at Kumbhalgarh, the 2nd longest wall in the world after the Great Wall of China. I like how in the shot of the other Eternals cheering on their wedding, Sprite looks pissed with envy, of course, and
you know, I never picked up on that. Obviously, and you wouldn't, because it's like later sort of talked about in the movie that, you know, she's just like deeply in love with Icarus. But I mean, in looking back, I mean, if I had went back and watched the movie, before watching this, like I would have picked up on it already, knowing that there was the whole fucking arc coming, that, you know, she was just like so madly in love with him, therefore in turn like insanely jealous of Cersei, and in turn wanting to fucking kill her because you've taken him from me once, you will not do it again.
Gives an apprehensive stare, as she never fully trusted Icarus. Cersei, Sprite, and Icarus arrive at Ajax, South Dakota ranch. Icarus is the last one to walk up, though, probably since he knows what they're gonna find there. Then the speaking sphere floats up from Ajax's corpse to Cersei, and now Airsham tells Cersei, "It's almost time to be disqualified." Then we flash back to Tenochtitlan, sorry if I said that wrong, 1521 AD. This was the great capital of the Aztec Empire that was sacked by Spanish forces led by Conquistador Hernan Cortez in this year. Another important historical turning point in human history. It allows Spain and other European powers to end up dominating the Americas. Thanks, smallpox! Oh my god, I just realized that's the same way Florida's gonna conquer all of us. Anyway, seeing these Spanish soldiers wipe out the Aztecs with firearms, the Eternals debate intervention, and then Athena suffers a breakdown from mad weary, which they later define as one's mind fracturing under the weight of memories. Like, you know, anytime you think about high school and the spiraling begins, the skateboarders were so...
If that's the case, I have mad weary all the time. All the time.
Gonna die! Ajax offers to wipe Athena's memory, but Gilgamesh says he will seclude her and watch over her, and then Druig splits off by making the Spanish and Aztecs drop their weapons and follow him into the jungle. They track down Kingo on the set of a Bollywood film in Mumbai, and he tells them his movie is The Legend of Icarus, thus his costume matching Icarus's old design, and he introduces my favorite character in the movie, Karun.
Actually, when we first met, he thought I was a vampire, and he tried to stake me through the heart.
I've apologized so many times.
Not quite enough times, very close.
I guess another MCU vampire mention.
This character is so fucking funny. I enjoyed their dynamic between each other. They were very funny together.
After one we heard in Loki.
You know, we brought in Kree, Titans, vampires. Why is it the two orphan demigods are such a pain in the ass?
Just interesting how vampires are increasingly becoming a thing in the MCU, setting the stage for Blade to exist at some point. A promise that gets delivered in the final seconds of the post-credit scene with a...
Yo, I was like, are you sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman? Ooh, I'm so ready. Mahershala. Boy, well, I'm here for it.
Local cameo by Mahershala Ali as the MCU's Blade. Kingo joins them despite having a sequel to shoot, and he mentions how they just got BTS to do a cameo, which I feel like has got to be a meta nod to the pop star cameo in this.
I fucking died when he mentioned BTS. I was like, that was so fucking funny and so random. I'm like, but of course.
His post-credit scene of a superhero franchise. On Kingo's private jet, he collects Captain America's original shield from the first Cap film. He also shows his movie posters in which he posed as multiple generations of his own phony dynasty, like his great-grandfather, his grandfather's father, etc. The movies include titles like Yuva Prim, Taliko, Kel, and
that shit was hilarious. He created his own fucking family dynasty, and it just I was, oh my god, Kumail Nanjiani literally sold this character for me. I feel like if anybody else played him, like I wouldn't have cared as much, but everything about this character was hilarious, and I feel like I enjoyed it as much as I did because of his like sincere acting, his sincere comedy of it all. Like it was just, I don't know, it was good.
Phantom Gun looks like a 007 type movie, but notice how he changed up the facial hair of each generation. And if you think about it, this would have been under 100 years of history, so 5 generations means that Kingo refused to wait too long before reintroducing himself as like a younger, better looking son. It's so funny.
Like always rebranding himself.
Like craves the spotlight that much. Cersei tells Kingo in Karun's documentary that she can turn rock into water, rock into wood, and rock into metal. Could be a bit of foreshadowing in the final act when she transforms the gold-colored metal back into marble rock, but also maybe you could see this as a way that she could have helped turn rock into vibranium, with her and Fastos helping the Wakandans in various ways. Now, before I continue, getting called sir or ma'am or dude is not as cool as getting called lord or lady. Established titles is a project based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds, or lords and ladies in English. They let people buy as little as 1 square foot of dedicated land so that they can call themselves a lord or a lady. And in return, established titles commits to planting a tree. It's just a fun way to help preserve the beautiful woodlands and biodiversity of Scotland while raising funds to support global conservation efforts. Established Titles work with global charity Trees for the Future and One Tree Planted to help them plant a tree for every order. Plus, for those with Scottish heritage, it's a great way to connect to your family roots, or just a great fun option to get as a gift for a loved one. So this is the title I got. I'm getting a real kick out of this. Your title packs give you a numbered plot of dedicated land on a private estate in the medieval capital city of Scotland and an official certificate with a crest. And here's a map where
That's so awesome. I've seen this before in another, like when they were first starting it. It's like on a Facebook video or something. And I think that's so freaking awesome. Like I want a proclamation that literally proclaims me as Lord Zach Ray. Yes. Yes, you shall bow down and refer to me as Lord Zach Ray because I have a tree in my name.
Yes. They have a special Lordship, Ladyship, and Kingdom of Scotland bundle, which features a hand-drawn map of Scotland by famed cartographer John Speed. They're also running a special early Black Friday sale. So go to establishedtitles.com/newrockstars and get 10% off any orders. That's establishedtitles.com/
I might just take you up on that, Mr. Boss.
New Rockstars, or click the link in the description. In Australia, they find the corpse of a deviant that Gilgamesh had killed recently. Karun thinks it's beautiful, showing how beauty truly is a matter of perspective, but also making me suspect that Karun could be a Skrull who, on the Skrull planet, evolved from the deviant race. Keep an eye on that one.
Didn't feel that way before, but now that he mentioned it, I'm like, I wouldn't put it past them damn Skrulls. They're always popping up when you least expect them.
Gilgamesh compares Karun to Alfred in Batman, one of 2 references to DC superheroes in this movie.
Batman and Superman, yep. The kid.
Superman with the cape and you're shooting laser beams out of your eye.
Now, obviously, the MCU
and he's just like, I don't have a cape.
references external pop culture all the time, but DC references in particular almost never come up in the MCU since Iron Man in 2008, aside from a very quick Super Friends reference in Iron Man 3. But as I explained in a recent video and confirmed by director Chloe Zhao, Eternals is all about embracing superhero mythology in general, like famous DC characters and characters like Thor, all rooted in our world and in this world in historical folklore and Jungian archetypes. Then, suffering a bit of mad weary, Athena remembers one of the past planets they helped the Celestials destroy, saying, "Everyone in Century 6 is going to die. It's too late. We can't save them." Century 6 is actually a lesser planet from Marvel Comics, a planet whose population ends up getting sold into slavery. Gilgamesh and Kingo both use Odin's name in place of God, and then Kingo mentions Thor.
Thor used to follow me around when he was a little kid. Now he's a famous Avenger and won't return my calls.
Meaning Thor and other Asgardians may be aware of the Eternals on Earth. Sprite Solutions did earlier show a Viking ship, and 575 BC would have been long before Norse Vikings on Earth were ever around, so she might have been referencing their friends, the Asgardians, and these 2 groups of people might have known each other, which makes us now wonder, what are the Celestials' relationship with the Asgardians? In the Marvel Comics, the Asgardians were a special group that the Celestials created from an extra mutation cycle, designed to reflect the mythology of the people they protect. So we'll see if this history comes up in Thor Love and Thunder, with characters like Gore the God Butcher, who carries a special sword that, in the comics, did sever the head of the Celestial Nowhere. And they bring up the Avengers.
So now that Captain Rogers and Iron Man are both gone, who do you think's gonna lead the Avengers?
I could lead them.
I'm really curious to see now where they move with Thor Love and Thunder. I mean, and that's probably the prime example or prime reason why I actually wanted to watch this video within this review. I mean, it's less of a review and more of just like my overall discussion of it. But it's really helping me to kind of question, like, okay, all right, like we're really getting big. We're really expanding the universe at this point, and just again further showing how small everything else is in the expansiveness of where we're now going. Like, it's insane, and I'm here for it. I'm freaking here for it. Let's do it. Hold on.
Yeah, they tell Icarus that Ajax didn't even choose him to lead them. And Icarus laughs it off, but he does seem a bit stung. I think it's because he still feels pretty guilty about what he did to Ajax. It's also interesting that Sprite just called Steve Captain Rogers, meaning they must have been aware of him back in the 40s when he was still an army soldier. Maybe also a nod to the fact that Captain America in the MCU is now technically Sam Wilson. Arishem reveals the dark truth to Cersei, that the emergence is the hatching of a sleeping celestial nestled inside Earth called Tiamat, and that all the celestials are born by gestating inside host planets, feeding on the energy of the planet's life forms, and then emerge when they reach a critical energy level, and then the celestials recycle that energy to create new suns and new galaxies. So Tiamat being secretly buried inside Earth comes directly from the Marvel comics, in which Tiamat the Dreaming Celestial arises from under San Francisco. Also gotta say, nice to call one accurately for a change. Arishem shows him crashing up through the crust of the Earth shortly after the planet's population resurges after Bruce Banner ended the blip in Avengers Endgame, and in that moment you can see specific population centers suddenly repopulating, including a little bright spot on Wakanda. As Tiamat's giant hand reaches up through the surface, you can see the city electrical grids suddenly flickering out. Just a frightening example of scale in the billions of lives that would have been lost. Arishem also reveals that the Eternals are not from the planet Olympia, but they are actually memoryless synthetic beings sent to host planets with celestial seeds in order to make sure intelligent life continues to evolve, protecting that life from the deviants, whom the Celestials also created, initially sent to clear out the apex predators on that planet. Arishem mentions losing control of the deviants as they evolved, and we see what looks like some Skrulls. These shape-shifting Skrulls were actually the deviant race on that planet, thus the link with the deviants, well, less developed shape-shifting abilities in this movie. The Eternals are constructed in a world forge that stores their memories from past lives. Cersei actually sees an assembly line of her past selves, production design evoking the partly formed AI robots in the movie Ex Machina. So at this point in the movie may be where Eternals either loses you or hooks you. For me, hook, line, and sinker. I mean,
100%,
100%. Tree of Life departs its earthbound drama for a macroscopic interlude halfway through the movie. This sudden expository spectacle is designed to stun and to overwhelm us, make us ask ourselves, well, what do we matter then? And in the case of the story, to shock Cersei into blind, trembling obedience, just like our Book of Genesis is really designed to do, folks.
Amen to that. That's all I'm gonna say.
Waiting for someone or something to show you the way. Really posing this movie's deeper question. Can one
He understood the assignment. He understood.
Purpose be defied for love? A debate that plays out among the Eternals. Kingo argues, we're not the bad guys, we did our jobs. One thing I really love about this movie, the conflict arises from everyone pursuing their purpose, be it survival, reproduction, or protection. It's an elemental Darwinian struggle, a battle of justifiable ideals. It actually evokes a classic Greek drama like Aeschylus's The Eumenides, in which immortal Greek gods debate the sins and worthiness of the human mortals. It's the same debate of free will versus determinism playing out with Loki and Kang, with the Watcher of What If, and it raises the bar of intellect in the MCU, and I am here for it. Ultimately, Cersei sides with the rationale Cap used in Infinity War, that the lives of others are never worth trading, therefore the emergence must be stopped. And they find Druig in a remote village of the Amazon, mind-controlling humans, an idyllic cult free from conflict. It's actually kind of fun to see how humanity is evolving in its own microcosm there. There's a blacksmith hammering away, reminding us of Tony Stark in the cave in the first Iron Man. We hear Cersei's ringtone, it's Lizzo's Juice, and Kingo and Druig face off.
Kingo, the movie star. I've directed some things too.
Yeah, Kingo says he's made some online content, but doesn't do it for the views. Hey, neither do we, Kingo. I'm just kidding. We totally do it for the views. We are horny for views here. We are the Eros of views. Cersei tells Dane to call his uncle and make a...
We are horny for views here. Where's the lie?
Men's with him, a nod to Dane Whitman's uncle, Nathan Garrett in the comics, the previous Black Knight, who's actually a villainous character. Historically, the bearer of the Ebony Blade, not a good guy, which is why Dane may not get along with him. In the comics, Dane actually inherits a castle from his uncle, and that's where he finds the Ebony Blade. In fact, I think that's where that second post-credit scene is taking place. Then deviants attack the village. Kingo uses his finger guns to explode one of their heads, while Cersei turns another into a tree, showing that she actually can transform sentient beings despite her belief otherwise. But the Alpha Deviant kills Gilgamesh and absorbs...
Because she was led to believe otherwise, because they don't want her to know the true largeness, expansiveness, the true threat of her power. Methinks.
His life force, turning that deviant into a more humanoid talking form named Crow, the leader of the deviants in the comics, who's voiced by Pennywise actor Bill Skarsgård, who accuses the Eternals of hunting his kind, saying,
No shit. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that movie through a whole different lens because I didn't realize that was Bill Skarsgård. Again, I did not look into anything regarding this movie. I don't know who the characters were. I don't know who the actors were behind, the voices and stuff. Like, well, obviously, of this character, Crow. I didn't even know that he had a fucking name. I don't even know. Maybe they said it in the movie, and I was just too deep and enthralled, and I didn't even fucking catch it. But there you go, another factoid that I had, I had no idea about.
"You are not saviors, Eternals. You are murderers. And you'll float too!" But since Druig doesn't think
Shut up.
he's powerful enough to mind control a whole celestial, they decide to seek out Phastos, whom we flash back to at the site of Hiroshima, August 8th, 1945, the day American forces dropped an atomic bomb on the city. And standing in the ashes, Ajax consoles Phastos, who cries, "I did this if my technology hadn't helped in the past. Druig was right. This was a mistake. These people, they're not worth saving." His regret is based on that of J. Robert Oppenheimer, one of the scientists whose research led to the atomic bomb, something he deeply regretted and fiercely criticized in his later.
Speaking of Oppenheimer, are we not excited about Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer coming out? Oh, I can't wait for that.
years. Now Phastos lives with his husband Ben and son Jack, who mistakes Icarus for Superman. Phastos tells his family that their names are Isaac and Sylvia, a nod to their human aliases in the comics: Isaac Ike Harris and Sylvia Cersei. On the table is a Star Wars book. Now, Star Wars has already popped up in the MCU before. Peter Parker is obsessed with Star Wars. He cites Empire and Civil War. He collects Star Wars Legos and figurines. And then, of course, Cap lists Star Wars in his notebook. But here, along with a Superman reference, it's just another piece of pop culture rooted in eternal linked mythology. Like George Lucas definitely based Luke Skywalker's hero's journey on Arthurian legend, the same Arthur known by the Eternals and by Dane's ancestors. Testing the walls of Phastos' safe house, Icarus also tests the table.
I bet you've built the perfect safe house. I mean, what's this even made of? Vibranium?
For Icarus to assume Phastos made a table out of vibranium, just another example how things like Wakandan vibranium tech might have been aided by Phastos. And he may have been the source who supplied Howard Stark with that vibranium for Cap's shield in World War II, but then maybe quit helping the United States defenses when they used his fission technology for the Manhattan Project. As Phastos leaves his family, Skeeter Davis's The End of the World plays, which we heard in the first trailer, and then they return to the Iraqi archaeological dig site where the ruins of Babylon do rest in our world. As a UNESCO World Heritage Site, here he raises the domo from the earth, and inside they find Makari, whom Kingo calls Miss Havisham, a reference to the crazy old hoarder from Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. Makari's wearing a shirt for H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. You think about it, a pretty similar plot about extraterrestrial world enders who end up not being able to cut it because the germs on this planet are just too resistant. Now, as a speedster, Makari has apparently just gathered various historical artifacts, including an ancient Egyptian statue of the deity Bastet, who is an influence on the Wakandan panther deity of Bast, a painting called La Liaison de Musique, which actually hangs in the Louvre, a Roman imperial eagle staff with SPQR, Senatus Populus K Romanus, the People's Republic of Rome, a bundle of scrolls, maybe from the Lost Library of Alexandria, a Big Mac in its carton, the Holy Grail, the same design from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, a statue called the Chimera of Arezzo, which in real life resides in the National Archaeological Museum in Florence, a throne that I thought might have been the United Kingdom's St. Edward's chair, their throne, but it's not that one, it's just one similar to it, and a medieval suit of armor, one that you might find in the UK's Tower of London. Remember Happy Hogan and the rest using some of that armor to fend off the Stark drones. And then a PlayStation VR headset. Athena swings around a sword.
I'm fucking dead. This is why I love these Easter egg type videos, because it's just like I would have never caught any of that. I would have caught it maybe on like my 5th fucking watch or something. But there is just so much that it's just like you just realize how much you don't pay attention when you're watching big scenes like that. I mean, it's meant to be an Easter egg, obviously, because it's like there's so much in the frame that it's just like it takes you a lot of time to be able to catch in that small second, how much is actually in a scene. So I love these types of videos.
Sprite thinks is the ebony blade, again, Dane Whitman's Black Knight's family sword, but Athena corrects her, it's Excalibur, the sword of King Arthur from legend, and Sprite says, well, Arthur always did have a crush on you. Meanwhile, the others trade Twinkies for the Emerald Tablet, showing that Makkari did eventually get her hands on it. Phastos invents new bracelets to help them form the Unimind to hack Tiamat, which is a term for all the Eternals combining their consciousness into a big brain that can fight off other big forces in the comics. We flash back 6 days before when Icarus visited Ajax on her ranch, where she tells him about the oncoming emergence, and he's like, awesome, great, mission accomplished. Let's pack it home, boys. But she says 5 years ago, Thanos delayed the emergence. Now, since we just learned that Thanos and his brother Eros were both Eternals of Titan, this may reframe Thanos' goal of erasing half of all life across the universe instead as a way of disrupting celestial reproduction. I've said it before, I'll say it again, Thanos did nothing wrong. He had a plan. The guy was on our side. Had we only listened. But since
I'm telling you, man, all in retrospect now, I'm also of like mind where I'm just like, I'm totally like repositioning all of my thoughts about Thanos in my mind. I'm just like, damn, like was Thanos right this whole time? And now fucking here comes Tony Stark again, fucking some shit up. But then again, that would be Thanos' fault for not like properly voicing the purpose. He's just like, ominously like, this is for the greater good. But why, Thanos? Why?
Jack was a softie who wanted to stop the emergence. Icarus transports her to the worst place on Earth, Alaska. Just kidding, I've never been there. But there's a melted glacier with some oil workers being fed on by unfrozen deviants. But the deviants now attack Ajax, killing her, stealing her healing power, and then regrouping, spreading south. Now, as the emergence begins, Makkari zips all around the world looking for that hatching point. I love the way they depict her speedster abilities in this movie. The world zips past her rapidly, including we see her pass the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro, as opposed to often how we see speedsters in other movies where they use relative slow motion to show super speed. Both look really cool. This is just a whole new way of showing it. I really appreciated it. And then she finds that point at an island in the Indian Ocean, and if you look behind her in the background, there are a couple oil platforms drilling away. I love this detail. It just gives this battle a backdrop of a reminder of just one way part of humanity doesn't care about this planet that the Eternals are fighting to save. Icarus reveals his betrayal of Ajax, and Sprite ends up siding with him. Of course she does. Now, Kingo, I thought was interesting, does side with Icarus in theory. He can't let go of his function, but out of not wanting to hurt his family, he benches himself from the fight. Sprite Houdinis herself and Icarus out of here. Actually, in the credits montage, there is a poster for a Houdini magic show with Sprite whispering in his ear, suggesting she might have influenced the great magician and escape artist. So, backup plan, Phastos has to extract Cersei's spear as kind of a backdoor hack to Tiamat, setting up this final battle on the volcanic island. Icarus crashes the domo, Cersei stalls the eruption, Makkari and Phastos use some awesome moves to pin Icarus to hold him down. Ajax seems to appear to Cersei, but it's all a trick by Sprite, who stabs her in the back, and the Druid clubs Sprite in the head. Athena battles Crow in a cave, manages to conjure blades to slice him apart, but still Tiamat emerges. It looks epic in scale. I loved how this looked, and Cersei has to combine her strength with the others of the Unimind to reverse Midas Tiamat and turn his golden form into marble. Icarus breaks free of Phastos' restraints and angrily fires his laser eyes into the sky, evoking an iconic frame of Icarus from the comics. Icarus watches this go down, and memories of Cersei rewind through their time together, back to their wedding day, back to Babylon, and to the first moment they set eyes on Earth while they were still in its orbit, and Cersei said, "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Beautiful. The same word Icarus taught himself to say in Akkadian or Babylonian, whatever version of the language it was back then, to Cersei the day that he proposed. And so he fulfills his mythological destiny and flies way too close to the sun. Like way too close, like into it. But despite this final conflict, Cersei can't help.
I wonder if he really is dead, because it's like, if you are like this, this essential godlike creature, like, can you really die that easily? I mean, Sprite was able to fucking stab Cersei, and it was just kind of like, oh, she's bleeding and things. So I guess, I don't know. I guess time will tell, because I'm just like, is Icarus really dead, or is he going to come back in Eternals too?
but feel grateful to the Celestial she just killed on the day of its birth, crediting it for her successful Unimind link. She says, Tiamat joined our Unimind. We became one, even with Icarus and Sprite, and that's all because of Tiamat. Just interesting to think that Tiamat might have been okay with what Cersei was doing to it. Like, not all Celestials are on board with Arisham's way of doing things, and might be more willing to grant the underlings, like the Eternals, more free will. Just gives us hope for whatever Celestial Eros is about to summon with his sphere, answering the question of this movie's premise: our original purposes can be and should be defied for love. And in the post-credits scene, we learn it's all thanks to the god of love. Cersei turns Sprite human, allowing her the chance to grow into an adult and live the mortal life she always wanted. A happy ending from another classic fairy tale, Pinocchio and the Blue Fairy. And there are no strings on her. Hey, that's an Ultron thing. Athena departs Earth on the Domo alongside Druig and Makari. They're all seeking out Eternals on other planets, while Kingo, Sprite, and Cersei...
That's what I couldn't remember. I'm like, who the hell was on board the Domo when fucking Harry Styles shows up? So it was Athena, Makari, and Druig. Okay, got it.
stay on Earth, but in the final scene, as Dane begins to tell Cersei that his family history is complicated and that it is his birthright to be the Black Knight, clouds form in the sky and Arishem appears, zipping Cersei up to him along with Phastos and Kingo, telling them, you have chosen to sacrifice a Celestial for the people of this.
Look at how fucking small they are in comparison to him. Like, he's so big. Oh, I love the sense of dimension and scope of just how fucking massive this god is. Oh, so good.
I will spare them, but your memories will determine if they are worthy to live, and I will return in judgment, allowing Arishem to complete his arc to become his title from the comics, Arishem the Judge. So this way, the film kind of leaves it open-ended whether humanity is worthy of its salvation, almost like a challenge to us to earn our right to exist. Now, if the movie Eternals didn't speak to you, that's totally okay. But is it the worst Marvel movie? Hell no, my friends. This film's deeper themes hit me hard, and I believe we will see the benefits of its contributions for years to come in the MCU. But I want to know your thoughts on the film in the comments below. You can support New Rockstars by checking out our merch options at newrockstarsmerch.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EAVoss, follow New Rockstars, and subscribe for breakdowns of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.
In closing, I really I just really enjoyed this movie. Like, I really enjoyed this movie. I mean, I just, again, you know, what Eric Voss, you know, so eloquently voiced in his video here is that what this movie did was literally set up where we're going from here. And it's all like, you have to keep raising the stakes. We're almost at 30 fucking movies in this saga, right? We're in what, phase 4? You have to keep raising the stakes, but also keep it realistic enough, you know, for us to kind of buy what it is that's happening. But I mean, this movie is literally, it was the perfect stepping stone to show, hey, we're going to new heights in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, okay? We're not just going to be dealing with this petty, you know, fucking drama on land here, okay? It's not all about, you know, the little, like, the Black Widow type espionage, right? We thought we were getting big when Thanos came and fucking, you know, almost destroyed all of humanity, but only destroyed half of it. Now you're kind of finding out, like, well, was Thanos really the bad guy, or was he just misunderstood? You know, did he know more about, you know, the bigger threat that exists in the universe, and that is the Celestials and fucking Arishem? Like, it just opens up all of these different doors that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm pretty sure, will enjoy exploring moving forward. And I'm excited to see where all of this goes. And that brings us to the close of this super long video. What did you guys think of Eternals? Again, we know that I very much enjoyed it. I very much look forward to where they're going to go from here. And I'm just left in awe. I'm left in absolute awe. And I can't wait for Spider-Man No Way Home to come out and see now what implications are going to happen as a result of the end of that movie. So again, what did you guys think of Eternals? What did you think of my pseudo review discussion of the Eternals? I know it was all over the place, but I just wanted to kind of hone it in with watching the Easter egg breakdown video, because I already knew that there are plenty of other people out there that are way more, you know, comic book savvy than I am. I'm just, you know, a layman who loves movies, and I enjoyed this movie for what it was, and I can't wait to see where they go from here. But I hope y'all have a great rest of your day, and if you enjoyed my little review discussion here, go ahead and leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on your post notification bell to see all of this madness in the moment as it comes to you on your little screen there. And with that, y'all, this has been another video, and remember, chubby no do not eat. Have a great rest of your week. Later.
He needs some milk.